The other angle, of course, that I saw with this, the other angle that caught my eye, was I saw a guy on BBC News this morning, right? On BBC News this morning, it was a vox-pop. And it was a guy in the street. And he had a flat cap. He was an older gentleman. I'm going to say he was in his 60s, right? He had a flat cap and he had big sort of goggle glass. I don't want to be cruel, but I'm so good at it, so I will be. So flat cap, big goggle glasses. And it looked like they just caught him leaving the bookies to go into the British Legion, sort of. He was like that sort of guy, right? Like he's just got tickets to Jim Davidson and he's off on his way. Like it's that sort of, like, you know exactly the sort of person I'm talking about. It's the sort of person that sings "Roll Out the Barrel" all night long when he's on holiday in, like, you know, Costa del Sol every August. He's that guy. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm painting a picture here for you guys. So anyway, he's on the news vox-pop thing, and they asked him if he felt safe in the neighbourhood, right? It's such a loaded question, isn't it? Like, is anyone going to answer yes to that? When there's police cordoning tape in the background. Do you feel safe here? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Really? No, I don't feel safe, you fucking idiot. So, somebody's just been attacked with acid just over there. You can probably still smell it. If you can pick up a scent that's weaker than the tobacco that's stained into that moustache on your face. I mean, I just wondered. I just wondered, sir, if we could just borrow you for a minute. Just an open-ended question, really. Just out of curiosity. It's not a loaded question at all. Just for my own curiosity. In the context of sulfuric acid disfiguring your neighbour over there, do you feel safe? Who is going to say, yes, it's probably a one-off? To be honest with you, he's never going to say that. What value is there in that question? Do you think it would be possible for someone to take that in their stride? But yeah, he answered it. He did actually answer it. You know, I'm taking the piss here a little bit, as I do. He answered it, and he said no, obviously, that he doesn't feel safe. He said, like, he expanded on it. And he said it in a way, like, he was so predictable and perfectly cast for this role. Do you know what I mean? When you see a vox pop, be like, oh, great, here we go. you absolutely judge the book by the cover. Like, I don't want to judge book by covers, but sometimes the illustrations are so good, guys. He's perfectly cast for this role. He knew his lines from the get-go. His flat cap, goggle glasses, big fat tash, proper British. Absolutely zero probability that his name was anything other than John. So John clears his throat, right? They ask him, do you feel safe around here? He clears his throat. Perfectly cast for this performance. He's learned his lines, and he says this. Well, I just think that this is what happens when you don't control the borders. And I'm like, I'm just screaming at the TV at this, because I am that guy now. That's me. You know, I used to be chilled, guys. I used to be pretty relaxed, laid back. Like, I'd see to my kids in the morning. You know, I'd be making them breakfast. I'd be packing their lunch boxes for the day. I'd be getting them dressed. Nowadays, the 3-year-old is walking around in a soiled nappy while the 7-year-old cries about it. And I'm just over here screaming in the television about, you know, Tories and fake news. And anyway, so I'm screaming at the TV at this fucking idiot. And, you know, they obviously don't have the same values to us, you know, and all that. So, like, I get the fear. I understand the fear. And, you know, God knows, but, like, when I first heard this story, I was like, oh, fucking wow. That is horrendous. But A, it's a story about the Home Office and poor government, right? It's about shit government, this story. It's the Tories who should be answering for this. Like, they're so happy, aren't they? Like, this is just as a little side note. They're so happy to take 1 or 2 bad refugees and stretch that out across the whole asylum system, you know, as a means to leave the ECHR, which is basically what they want to do anyway, to trash your employment rights. Like, that's where this is all headed, is leave the ECHR, and then they can make you work at a sweatshop and make their billionaire golf club friends even richer. That's all this is. That is your future. And yet, the thing about, like, taking 1 or 2 bad ones and stretching it out all across, then you look back at the institution of the actual Conservative Party, like, that is successively And always, throughout, forever, it is always piss poor through the whole institution. All of the Conservative Party, piss poor, terrible at government, cruel, sociopathic, and completely inept. And yet, when the whole thing is like that, they're like, well, you know, maybe there's a couple of bad apples here and there, but for the most part, we're okay, you know? The bad appleness or bad appleism is a really interesting exercise when you're observing Conservatives, I think. So, A, it's a story about the Home Office and Tories. But also B, right, I think this is more interesting. It's a story about, like, this guy came from Afghanistan, right? And yes, it appears that he threw acid over a woman and her daughter and maybe a few others got caught up in it. And yes, that is disgusting. But do you know where the world's capital of acid throwing is? Take a guess, guys. Do you know where it does any more, like, more acid throwing than anywhere else in the entire world? The world capital of acid throwing. It's fucking Britain. What do you think that? It's the United Kingdom. Britons do acid throwing. It's basically we do cups of tea, we do football, and fucking that. That's what, like, I don't want to get too dark and too cynical about this, but you know, you could kind of make the case that he settled in quite well. I mean, like, if it's a conversation about, you know, they've got different values to us and there's different culture or so, all I'm saying is that if he's living in the world capital of acid attacks, it appears he's adapted. All right. Oh, okay. Right. Let's move on.